What is going on, my fellow conspirator and conspirators? Welcome to the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Ooh. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that is super spooky. Ooh. And that topic is chargebacks. Oh man, this is the bane of my existence. Thankfully, I've never had a chargeback myself, but if you do e-commerce long enough, you will eventually have one. I can't believe I've never, ever had a single chargeback. And that just shows, I guess, my experience and my level of risk that I'm willing to take with certain things. When it comes to e-com specifically, if you're getting a lot of orders, a high volume, you really need to sift through those orders. Even if it says that it's low risk, sift through it. And for me, because I've done this for so many people, I know when I'm going to see a chargeback. Now, or I know probably when I'm going to get one. Now, if you're not familiar with what a chargeback is, it's when someone who actually places an order, or they see something on their credit card, for example, and they're like, hey, I didn't order this. What happened? Like, I don't remember ordering this. Who is this person? So they end up contacting their credit card company, whatever kind of credit card they use, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, etc. So they call their credit card company and they're like, hey, I didn't order this. And their credit card company's like, all right, cool. So we're going to okay, cool. So there's a phone number here. So here, call this person first. And if you can't get through to them, then call us back and we can look into this and get you your money back. And it's like, all right. And the biggest mistake I see is that for merchants specifically, you need to put your phone number there. Because if the customer doesn't recall, they can quickly call you. The bank will give them your phone number. They'll call you and they can be like, hey, I don't remember ordering this. And be like, okay, cool. Did you remember ordering this? So it's like, oh, I have your name in my system here in all of my orders. Cool. Do you remember ordering this? And the person's going to be like, oh, yeah, I do remember that. So, but what happens is if that customer, they place that order and then they can't get through to you, they're going to go to their credit card company and be like, hey, man, I don't remember buying this. So the credit card company is going to be like, no worries. We're going to provide you with a refund. And that refund is going to come out of your merchant account. Plus you're going to be hit with a penalty fee. It's usually about $15 depending on which platform you're using. If it's Shopify, I think it's $15-$20 from what I remember. But you're going to get that chargeback, and chargebacks stink. And after you hit about 1% of chargebacks of your total orders, then you're going to be kind of out of luck. Up the creek without a paddle, so they say. So there's so many ways you can prevent chargebacks. So I would make sure if you're doing e-com, go into Stripe and go into Shopify, wherever you're placing it, wherever your merchant account is, and look at the orders, analyze them. Make sure that the address of the customer you're shipping to is also the same, is close enough to where the order is actually located. Now, I won't ship to certain countries, so I'll only ship with e-com to Canada, the United States, Australia, and the GBNI, which is which is Great Britain and Ireland. I'll only ship to those countries. If I see an order in Malaysia, from my experience, you're probably going to get a chargeback for that. That's probably someone who's stolen someone else's card and processed an order. I would have a process in place too with your chargebacks for how you're looking through things. When I used to work at a former company, we were getting a lot of chargebacks. And so the finance team came to the customer service team. They're like, hey guys, so here's the deal. We're getting a lot of chargebacks. Let's look through the data and see where they're coming from. And sure enough, after going through all the data, the majority of the orders were coming from a specific province in Canada, the province of Quebec. And they were coming from a specific area. And since my family is from Quebec and Montreal specifically, I'm like, okay, it's probably the mob. And then there was this guy in my team who's like, dude, I looked into this. This guy's name who's on this order is like in jail right now, and he's a mob boss. And I'm like, oh man, that is insane. So the job that he had was whenever you would get those orders, and what we did was whenever we had an order from specifically anywhere in Quebec, it was on hold right away. So we called that customer, confirmed their details, confirmed that it was them who placed the order. If we was ever suspicious, we would get some additional information from that customer to make sure that they essentially who were they claimed to be. In a lot of cases, they'd be like, oh yeah, it's me. It's like, all right, cool. Send us an ID front and back of your credit card. And once we have that, then we can release the order. And some people are like, all right, why are you doing this? And whenever they would, the people who were legit orders, we couldn't tell them what was happening, but it was like, hey man, this is, we just need that information just to confirm your address and stuff, just to make sure that the order is going to go through. And usually those people, they would send it and we'd be like, hey, thank you so much. We're going to, rush your order. So we would make sure that those orders actually went out. Because it had already been on hold and we promised 7 to 10 business days anywhere in Canada. And Quebec is very far from where the warehouse was, or it was actually, very close from Brampton. Like Brampton to Quebec, it's going to get there in 1 or 2 business days once it ships, right? It still takes a couple of days to move through the logistics chain and the supply chain for actually to ship out. But that's essentially the process we had. Now, the problem with merchant accounts, all right, is that what's actually going to happen in some cases is all the banks and credit card companies, they give the customer automatically all the power, which sucks for you as a merchant. So you're unfortunately going to get those chargebacks that you can do nothing about. And in some cases, there are some fraudulent customers out there who are actually just going to process chargebacks because that's how vindictive and malicious they are. And they don't really care about that. And they're basically just ordering stuff and then they just do chargebacks because they don't have the money to pay for it and they're taking advantage of the system. So if you're listening to this and you're doing that, karma is going to catch up to you and karma is going to hurt you and your kids are going to find out about it, your grandkids are going to find out about it, and bad things are going to happen to you. So don't do that, all right? Don't take advantage of merchants. Merchants are the lifeblood of the world. They take all the risk to start these businesses. So whatever you do, don't just charge back random orders, all right? I recommend you don't do that because, stuff's going to catch up with you, all right? But unfortunately, because there's been so many people who have set up so many sketchy accounts over the years, what ends up happening is that the credit card companies and the merchant accounts will always side with the customer. In some cases, it might be an accident and you might have that customer's contact information, so you can call them and get them to reverse that. The problem is that when you do that, it still takes a lot of the time. It still takes a lot of time because these merchant accounts, because they work with banks, they work about at the same speed as the government, unfortunately. So whatever happens, you're going to be without that money for a long time. And sure, it might be an accident, it stinks, but that's just part of being in business, right? Is that the cash flow, that's really going to hurt your cash flow, especially if it's for bigger items. If you're selling more expensive stuff, right? For lesser expensive stuff, like t-shirts and stuff like that, you do need to do your due diligence and review the orders. But if you're selling expensive stuff like jewelry and anything where you're shipping it out and these people are paying minimum, I would say $500 upwards. I know that's not even that expensive, but whatever the price is, I totally recommend that you do whatever it is, go out and actually review all of your orders. Because think about it, if you get a $5,000 chargeback and you ship out, let's say, a bracelet or something that's like diamond encrusted, and you get that chargeback, like that's going to kill your business. So just make sure if you're selling expensive stuff, you actually review the orders. In some cases, again, have a system and a process set up whereby when you do get those orders and you're looking at each order individually and you're looking at them being like, okay, this one's legit, where they ordered from, their IP address is very close to where they're located. That's one thing I would recommend. There's a few, I don't remember the name of these apps, but there's a bunch of apps too where they guarantee you pay them a certain percentage and they guarantee you won't get a charge back as well. So I think it's Signify. So when you get an order, you just need to set up Signify, and if they're like, dude, you need to cancel this order, you're going to get a charge back, then you do that. But let's say you do get an order and then it does end up in a chargeback and it goes through them, then they'll actually cover it, I believe. So it's probably up to a certain amount that they'll give you back, but that's just insurance, right? Chargeback insurance is pretty important as well. And I've seen other platforms where they're looking into finding these solutions for things, right? That's why I love Shopify so much, because they have all sorts of systems set up for things like that, and they're really good, and obviously their customer service is next level. So chargebacks, though, they stink. I mean, I wish it was something where they didn't exist, and there's sketchy people too, where someone told me they had a course, and then what ended up happening is right before the holidays, they got a few chargebacks at the same time, and they're just like, oh, who charged me back? And in one case, it was one dude who'd bought a bunch of his products, and then I guess the guy just didn't have any money, so he charged them back. And the guy had no power over it whatsoever. And the thing is, he's like, dude, and he showed me the messages he had with the guy. And he's like, dude, this guy bought from me. Like, we had messages. I was like, hey, are you doing this stuff? The guy's like, yeah, man, I totally am. And then the dude charged back anyways. And then he tried to contact the guy afterwards, and he ghosted. And he's just like, oh, man. So in some cases, you don't want those customers. It's better to just refund them and from the get-go, but it's really hard to do that. So inevitably, you are going to get a chargeback, right? I know eventually I am going to get a chargeback. I'm not naive enough to know that. So I just want to give you as much possible information to prevent you from getting chargebacks, to mitigate them, because you can't eliminate them, and really just to point you in the right direction should you get a chargeback. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. If you did, I want you to consider subscribing, maybe listening to some additional episodes, and even leaving a review or sending an email with questions to undergroundmarketingconspiracy@gmail.com. My name is Matty Milligan. You can find out more about me by visiting mattymilligan.com, and I will see you next time on another episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Woo!